have audio. Testing. Testing. May have audio. There we go. Jesus fucking Christ. Testing. Testing. May have audio. There we go. Oh, fuck, that was painful. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. So, I am playing some Battlefield. But I wanted something easy to play. Because I mainly just want to drink my Chupai and pontificate about some stupid shit. Time to buy things, maybe. So this is Fort Sanchez. Fort Dirty Sanchez, by the way. And, yeah, nice little fort. And I was going on earlier about something to a friend. Just going to turn my brain off. Entirely revolves around the namesake of redneck, and that drives me. I'm not gonna lie, like half my fucking family's rednecks, for better or worse. Like, kind of rednecks. Yeah, it bothers me. It bothers the fuck out of me that people have forgotten where the namesake comes from, and it's totally a roundabout way of looking at it. But a lot of people are talking about Amazon these days, and it's the Battle of Blair Mountain. And if you haven't heard of it, don't feel bad, but also feel bad. But it is really. And it's really a fucking interesting story because it's about a labor uprising, the largest single labor uprising in the United States. And in speaking about this, you know, I hate to say it, we're kind of at a point. We're kind of at a point where, like, it feels like some people are unfortunately, you know, pissing in bottles and fucking licking those corporate boots. And it feels weird talking about that. America's got this culture of that. We don't like to think of ourselves as labor slaves, except we kind of are. Case in point, Battle of Blair Mountain. Back in the fucking day, coal country. Blair Mountain, I want to say it was Virginia? Somewhere, some fucking redneck state like that. And, there was a coal town. And I'm going to butcher half this story, but you'll get the gist of it. And there was this nice little coal town And back in the day when you could have company bucks and company store and you paid people in company dollars. It's very like Ayn Rand, wet dream kind of shit. And, you know, very Bioshock. He's a man not entitled to the sweat of his own brow. And, they had these coal towns in which you... Shut the fuck up! You're fine. I know. You're fine. They had these coal towns where people... Ripley! Knock it off! They had these coal towns in which people were paid this shit. In company bucks. Like, you lived in company housing. And, you know, let's say you had a family living there. And this is not entirely hypothetical, because Ripley! Shh! Telling a story. Taking away the gravity of the situation. And, what was I saying? You would be paid, you would have a family living there, and that was all fine and well, but, you know, let's say it was your typical nuclear family at the time, and the man died in the coal mine, let's say. And then, you know, you had the family, the widow, and the child living in company housing. No longer being paid company bucks, because the man died in the coal mine. Making, you know, that next fat paycheck for whoever the owner was. And, company might say, get the fuck out. Which was indeed the case. And in this little coal town, there was a sheriff who did right by his people, generally speaking. I'm not gonna glorify any stupid bullshit, but generally, he abided by some reasonable social tenets in that regard. He was like, no, I'm not gonna kick a fucking widow and her, you know, his children out. And there's some chat stuff for my UI right now. And they said the company was of course like, well, you know, your guy died, sucks to be you, get the fuck out of company housing. Sheriff was not about to evict them, literally speaking, and was not down with that. So the company, being the company, hired literal Picatinny men. Picatinny being a company at the time. Back to Bioshock, actually. Picatinny was a company that offered basically like civilian mercenary services, more or less. They were like they also ran some like Secret Service shit before the Secret Service existed. But anyway, you could hire the company to run security, or a private security firm. And they said, okay, well, we'll take care of your problem for you. And long story short, they killed the sheriff. That's, you know, there are many steps in between there, but long story short, Picatinny men kill the sheriff. And it was not under, like, some, you know, hanky bullshit circumstances. They just straight up fucking murdered the sheriff. And in doing so, they absolutely enraged the town and the surrounding area, because this was, for all intents and purposes, their Robin Hood, you know? This was their sheriff. He did right by them, you know, as well as he could. And so begins the Battle of Blair Mountain. Not so directly, but you get a bunch of Union men, because unions were a little more of a thing. I wonder why. And they start rallying people up, and they're like, we're gonna take the fucking coal mine from you. So they do. They take the coal mine. At least initially, if I remember correctly. So they take the coal mine, and this coal mine is on Blair Mountain. And they start... Fuck you, man. I ain't swimming. And they take the mine, or they try to take the mine. I can't really remember which it is. And it's basically like a year-long story of escalation, in which these Union men, and they start rallying unions, because they're not. We're not just talking about, you know, just the town at this point. They start pulling outside resources because you have to band together to be able to take down the man, essentially. And they start with this shit, and they keep escalating. And it basically becomes guerrilla warfare in the fucking, you know, middle of West Virginia, or whatever fucking redneck area this is. Redneck maybe. I'm getting to where we go get the namesake of redneck from. And this is just continually... and it's escalating. It literally reaches the point... It's... I want to say it's the largest battle fought on American soil outside of the Civil War, if I remember correctly. And it is these Union men. They're basically trying to take this hilltop. This hilltop in which the mine is on. And they are, you know, a bunch of fucking dudes just, like, with fucking post-Civil War, but Civil War era. Muskets, you know, these guys are coming out of the woodwork. They're just picking up whatever's hanging over the mantelpiece, kind of thing. Flooding in, like, this winds up being ultimately an enormous battle. It's like 10,000 people that wind up ultimately storming Blair Mountain. It's not, this is not a little fucking skirmish. And of course, you know, the company, it's got its money, it's got its resources, and coal's huge at the time. We're talking transportation, we're talking everything. People, how they heated their homes, that's how, you know, fledgling electricity at the time was generated, all that shit. And then they try and storm this fucking coal mine. And the company, meanwhile, is kept investing in Picatinny men and fucking munitions and shit. And, like, they have literally entrenched the mountaintop, Blair Mountain, with fucking Maxwell machine guns, water-cooled machine guns. Some of the more advanced technology of the time. This is pre-World War I, if I recall correctly. And it does not go well. It does not go well at all. They get mowed the fuck down. Because light water-cooled machine guns versus Rednecks. Redneck is where I was going with this story. And during this whole time, you know, they're fighting an uphill battle. All these Union men are fighting an uphill battle. They're fighting against water-cooled fucking machine guns in trench warfare. And so they start kind of adopting guerrilla tactics. And their guerrilla tactics are, you know, they're kind of Civil War era. Like, they're not quite like, you know, the fucking trees are talking to me kind of shit. But they're ambushing people, they're using whatever's to their advantage, so they have to start to identify friend versus foe, which is a problem, because, we're talking about a day and an age where people are still walking down fucking dirt roads randomly, like, oh, I'm just on my way to town, kind of shit. And, the best way they could go about that is just giving something, some identifier on it that was visible, like, I'm not gonna shoot you in the fucking head kind of shit. And it was a red handkerchief around the neck. And it's a really long-winded way of describing that, yes. But people forget where that namesake comes from and how fucking pivotal that is. How fucking amazing that is, that these men are using what's available to them. And their guerrilla tactics to fight, the Picatinny men and the owners of the coal mines against these ridiculous circumstances, which started, for the record, let's go all the way back, which started with the company trying to evict a widow, which the company more or less killed in the coal mine, from her home. A widow and her family. They did this because, let's be real about that. I grew up in coal country. I grew up in PA. I've been down my fair share number of mines. And, yeah, they're terrifying. There's no way around that. But people often forget the fact that, hold on, far too often forget about these circumstances. Where does redneck come from? Why are you rednecks? It's fucking ironic how that's bastardized to this day. And it was entirely based upon fighting this corporation, this company, this town that was developed from the ground up to subjugate these people. And it's absolutely astounding listening to people these days have these discussions as if they're new. And that's not to say that, this has always been happening, but it fucking slide. It's a lot more to say that look to your own damn history. And not even in sit there, do your research, I want some dry bullshit. We're talking about men in the fucking woods with muskets with red handkerchiefs tied around their neck. And that's the whole fucking premise for it. And then it gets, of course, capitalized upon because this is the same group of people. Fast forward, not that far, we're talking Prohibition. And, same group of people that, NASCAR, as much as these fucking bootlickers want to pretend NASCAR is some very above-brow legitimate thing. It started entirely from alcohol. It started entirely from people with alcohol. Bonnie and Clyde kind of shit. Back during Prohibition era. Which, god damn it, if that doesn't fucking call attention to yet another prohibition. Marijuana, not that I particularly vibe, but it's fucking hilarious how history repeats itself, isn't it? And but fast forward to today, and, I can't open a fucking news story without seeing Amazon workers fucking pissing in bottles, and Amazon workers being monitored for productivity and just the most basic fucking premises of ridiculousness that we are legitimately letting slide. And this is a really long-winded way to remind you that if Amazon could use water-cooled machine guns on its employees, it fucking would. And you know why? Because it's already fucking happened. The Battle of Lair Mountain, your Picatinny men, your coal miners, they actually, the most ridiculous part of this entire story is they lost that battle, objectively speaking. They did not, these Union men did not take the coal mine. They had these Maxwell machine guns, they had these fucking water-cooled machine guns, and they mowed down the waves of you know, poor men with muskets, these Union men with muskets that flooded in from around the country, actually. And they objectively lost that battle, but it did start a much more significant labor uprising. And, you know, we associate terms like labor uprising, company men and things like that with we associate it with Cold War era terms like socialism and things like that, even though it actually has no association, and those things are not inherently bad unto themselves. But it's fucking insane how many people don't know this story, and it's been bothering the fuck out of me. And the namesake of redneck, and the entire premise behind the Battle of Blair Mountain, things like that. You know, it's not to glorify a singular event in American history, but it kind of is, because it is so much more applicable today than I really can think of in the past, you know, 50 years. Maybe it's just because I'm living through it. I don't know. But I really just wanted to talk about that for a hot fucking minute while I harvested stones. Wood. My big fucking whatchamacallit, castle. And it does really bother me actually that people don't know where the concept of redneck came from. I don't know. It would be a nice term to reclaim that wasn't associated with stupid hillbilly bullshit. Because the namesake revolves entirely around you know, not putting up with not kowtowing to the company man, you know. And I think it's something that we shouldn't forget quite so easily as we have. That's now. Where's my drink? And that's enough about that. But I went on a really good date tonight. That's exciting. And should have a bonfire. What bonfire again? Certain core. No, I don't want to build a bonfire. Cook some food. fucking upgrade the Bolter. You could upgrade it. Upgrade the thing. I don't know. But yeah, I wanted to call attention to that because just fucking cuz. It's fucking silly. These conversations having to be said for goddamn Americans, and we've literally stormed our own coal mines with muskets while the fucking companymen mowed us down with light machine guns. Water cooled. Water cooled. They were Maxwell machine guns. Hey, totally another American discussion. I fucking love Ian McCallum, something like that. Forgotten history. I want you to share. Get that coal. That's ironic. I installed, so this is my private server. If anybody wants to play, you can play on it. But I installed the Valheim Plus mod on this, and it's been a blast because I could tweak it a little bit so it's not so painfully grindy. Speaking of which, I can need more silver. Oh shit, I smelted a bunch of silver. Fucking go, where's that silver? Read my fucking sword! Can I upgrade it? Fuck you. Fuck, yes, I can! Iron, leather, scrap, wood. Okay. I don't know. Do reach out to me if that's too, like, out there. But I would really enjoy talking more on things like this because, well, just fucking cuz. Because I like to get on my fucking pedestal. Look at that shit. Damn right. I got fucking iron out the ass. But should I make some meat? Let me make some meat before I hop off. Wait. I can make sausages. There's so many fucking sausages. Looks so good. Oh, I need to go. I got healing meat, minor stamina. And I made carrots. Oh shit, I need turnips. Where the fuck did the turnips from? Where do you get turnips from? Looks like a crop farm. I don't even know where I got the cake from, to be honest. I gotta find the trader still. Anywho, I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna be responsible tonight. And, not stay up too late. But I'll come back with some other stories.